Whenever we talk about systemic racism, there's always those people who say, name one law that is racist. In other words, name a law that targets black people or targets a marginalized community. In order for me to properly answer this question, you must first understand how systemic racism occurred through systematic implementation of laws and policies that were made to discriminate and target marginalized communities. So let's set the stage by using a hypothetical situation. Let's say in the 1800s, we made a law that said white people cannot drink alcohol. Now, obviously, that would be a discriminatory law that is specifically targeting white people. But then in the 1900s, we passed a law that says you can no longer discriminate against white people in the law. Then shortly after this law was passed, in 1910, there's this new research that shows alcohol consumption increases the chance of melanoma. So that same year, they passed a law that says people with increased chance of melanoma can no longer drink alcohol. First, there was this misinformation campaign that said alcohol will increase your chances of melanoma. So then we made a law in the interest of public safety, public health, that said people with increased chance of melanoma can't drink alcohol. So how do we enforce that law? Well, the government, the system decides who has an increased chance of melanoma. We personally have no control over that. So I could say to you, this law does not target white people. That's not a racist law. But when we look at the numbers over a 4-year period, 77,698 melanoma cases, 73,395 of them were white people. Now we see that that law is clearly targeting white people. And it's done under the guise of public health and safety. Now that we understand that, let's look at something that really did happen in our history. In December 1865, the 13th Amendment was ratified. Let's look at the language of that amendment. It says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. We are told this abolishes slavery. But you can see from the words in red that the exception to that rule is if you are found guilty of a crime. Well, in January 1866, vagrancy laws were passed. What are vagrancy laws? Vagrancy laws were laws that basically said if you were homeless, if you didn't have a job, if you were unemployed in any capacity, then it was a crime. You were considered idle. So in the interest of public health and safety, you must be arrested and taken off the streets. Well, now, according to the 13th Amendment, you've been duly convicted of a crime. Boom, you're now enslaved. The overwhelming majority of people who were homeless or unemployed were those people who were newly freed from chattel slavery. Black people were overwhelmingly targeted by vagrancy laws and other similar laws. In the 1970s, we convinced America that black people use marijuana more than white people. And then we criminalized marijuana. And although we can prove that white people and black people use marijuana at the same rates, the arrest rates of the black community for marijuana is 3 times higher than that of white people. In the 1980s, we made a distinction between crack and powder cocaine. Although they are the same substance, they're just taken differently. We convinced America that crack cocaine was far more dangerous. So in the interest of public safety, public health, we made laws that were more harsh on crack cocaine, which was found predominantly inside black communities. Whereas powder cocaine that was used predominantly in white communities was not policed or punished anywhere near the same way that crack cocaine was. So the war on drugs that started against crack cocaine was to target black people. Members of the Nixon administration came out 20 years later and admitted that was true. So when you say to me, name one law that is racist, and you ignore the systematic evolution of laws, the misinformation campaigns the government uses to target specific groups, the disproportionate enforcement of those laws, then you're not looking to have an honest conversation about systemic racism. You're just looking for a way to dog whistle your way out of it.